have seen some absolutely insane mask-off moments over the past week from people within the video game and entertainment industries. They do not care about lives unless it's their own, and unfortunately for Sony and Sucker Punch, right, Ghost of Yotei's release is right around the corner. It looks like it's going to face massive boycotts, so now they're damage controlling over the developers they've fired, but it's not going so well for them. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, this is a game that there was a certain group of people that were excited for it, but now I feel like all of that hype has died down and it's basically just a battleground. There are some people who are saying they are going to boycott it simply because they are upset with the fact that Sucker Punch had fired this developer. There are people that have said for months at this point that they were going to boycott it because of Erika Ishii, the story direction they went in, and now, to add to that pile of problems, the Charlie Kirk comments made by developers, and also the fact that there are still other developers working on this project that liked and reposted those posts. But now it seems that Sucker Punch realizes there is basically a war on social media over this game, and just firing this person wasn't going to, hopefully, for them, kill those flames out, and now they're issuing a statement which a week later just comes across as pure damage control. It doesn't seem genuine. It doesn't seem like they care. It just seems like they're hoping they're going to change a couple of people's minds on this game, and I get it, right? A company needs to sell copies of their title in order to stay afloat, but you're not going to get my sympathy when these are the types of people that you personally have handpicked to work at your company, and this is just a major issue with so many companies within the video game industry. You can fire one or two people, but at the same time, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other people at Sony Studios and even in Sucker Punch itself that agree with these statements. We saw when Drew Harrison made that post, there were several other Yotei developers who liked it, who reposted it, who ultimately promoted that standpoint, which is disgusting. And that's why there are a lot of people who are not going to forgive them. That's why a lot of people also, again, think that this is just a very hollow comment because it was made a week later. So for the last week, a war has been waging in the YouTube comments of each new Ghost of Yotei trailer as the PS5 exclusive nears its release date early next month, which, by the way, it's not just YouTube comments, it's YouTube comments on the Yotei trailers, on content creators' videos, on X, on Reddits, on Discords, like it is everywhere. That's because a developer at Sucker Punch joked about the assassination of Charlie Kirk on social media. What pisses me off to no end is the fact that Kotaku can sit here and lie and still get promoted by all of these big companies. These big companies still go to them and give them exclusive interviews and comments and codes when really they don't deserve it at all whatsoever because they are saying it boils down to a single joke, which isn't the case. Here is a prime example of why they got fired. Yes, there was this very lame attempt at a joke saying, I hope the shooter's name is Mario so that Luigi knows his bros got his back. But then there were reposts like this. He died doing what he loved, being a transphobic, racist bigot. And then they ended up doubling down and changing their name to Drew punching Nazis in the face. And then they basically had said, if standing up to fascism is what cost me my dream job of 10 years, I'd do it again 100 times stronger. So it was the jokes and then calling him an ist and a phobe, and then, of course, doubling down. Like, none of that looks good. You look fucking unhinged. That's why the company didn't want to work with you. But Kotaku isn't being honest. Not that we ever really expect the access media to be honest, but just know it doesn't boil down to one single joke. It says Sony confirmed it parted ways with the employee following a right-wing pressure campaign, but declined to issue any further statement. It wasn't a right-wing pressure campaign. It was millions upon millions of people on social media who were saying this is disgusting. But the facts are accurate. Fleming's Stephen Totillo's game file on Friday. When asked about the situation, Drew is no longer an employee here. I think we're aligned as a studio that celebrating or making light of someone's murder is a deal breaker for us, and we condemn that kind of in no uncertain terms. That's sort of our studio, and that's kind of where we are. It is such a lame statement because, sure, they're sitting here saying, oh, celebrating or making light of someone's murder isn't okay, but at the same time, they still employ hundreds of people who share this mindset. Their lead actress for Yotei is self-proclaimed Antifa. I don't think that's gonna go over very well for them. These are the types of people that they have supported over the years. These are the types of people that they hired, and these are the types of people that now they don't want representing their company, but at the same time, they do really deserve it. And to me, the worst part of this situation is how unprofessional this comes across, because this is the Sucker Punch co-founder and currently the boss of the company, and he's saying that, you know, it's sort of their studio and kind of where they are. Again, no longer an employee here. I think we're aligned as a studio that's celebrating or making light of someone's murder is a deal breaker for us, and we condemn that kind of in no uncertain terms, and that's sort of their studio and kind of where they are. You couldn't take 5 minutes to think out a clear and concise statement about the situation? You really thought you weren't going to be asked about this in this interview? Like, you came to this interview with the most unprofessional stance possible, and you aren't sitting here saying, we 100% condemn this. This totally isn't okay, and we will get rid of more employees that act this way in the future, because you're afraid of your employees, because they are willing to kill people over their opinions, and you don't want to be on the wrong side of the conversation in the office. Of course, they say that despite Harrison Swift firing, angry internet users urged on by clout-chasing culture warriors like Mark Kern have been demanding Sony take action against any staff members who have liked or reposted Harrison's comments, while also targeting other companies and their employees over potential anti-Kirk sentiment. This wording is why Jimmy Kimmel got fired. This wording is why Drew got fired. This wording is why a slew of other people got fired, because it is extremely dangerous. Saying that we are targeting certain people in a conversation like this, yeah, we can see what the fuck Kotaku is doing. And of course, they want this all to boil down to people are unfairly getting fired when that clearly isn't the case. They also, of course, want to paint people like Mark Kern and myself and basically anybody that they deem is on the right as disgusting, Nazi, bigots. And that's the type of speech that has become so dangerous over the past couple of years that these people are promoting, but really, these ones are the fascists. These ones are the people who do not care about human lives, which is why so many people now are putting their foot down and calling them out. You're really sitting here saying it is acceptable to shoot someone because their opinions, but it's not acceptable to fire the person who thinks they deserved to get shot. Like, that is a backwards mentality. And of course, there are a lot of people on social media who are saying, yeah, they can make this statement all they want, but it's still not acceptable, and we can see through their BS. Here is just one of the many threads on this. Savvy said the studio is full of activists. Their face is self-described as a terrorist. They aren't sorry at all. Article says the anti-woke were whom was upset, too scared to comment on your fired trans or Antifa, all pronouns lesbian, pay attention to the language. He thinks they condemn celebration of murder, but he's not sure. That's sort of their studio, but also not really. And that's kind of where they are, but not entirely. This studio is a radicalized hellhole, and it's just one of the many in AAA. The majority of the studios in the AAA industry now are filled with these types of people that stand for this same general sentiment, which is terrible to think about. It's so hard to support these studios now. It's so hard to want to even buy a brand new video game because you never really know who you're supporting. A statement we had to drag out to you is not sincere. You're simply afraid of the damage this is doing to your game. Also, only one employee was punished of the many who made fun of Kirk's death. It's clear Sucker Punch actually does agree with them. Anyone who believes them is a fool. To them, words are merely a means to deceive humans. That's sort of our studio, and that's kind of where we are. Laughing my ass off. Is that supposed to be convincing? Not much more you can expect from the studio that hired this thing, though, so I'll be covering Yotei a lot more in the future as we get closer to the release, and I just think that this is going to be a disaster for them. Sure, there is still a group of people who do not look at social media, who don't care about politics, and who will purchase this, but they need as many people as possible to buy a game like this with the scale and scope that it has, so I just don't know if they're actually going to hit the goals that they maybe once had. Only time will tell, but for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this and found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.